Welcome to another episode of Victoria's Lounge from Serena Hotel. I'm Victoria Rubadiri. It's time for another topic mashup, and do we have a lot to discuss? From the landmark ruling that now requires fathers' names to appear on birth certificates of children who were born out of wedlock, and is marriage really an accomplishment? Well, let's get the convo started, but first, meet my guests.
Maggie Gitu is a jack of all trades. As a trained opera singer, marriage and family therapist, she's a treasure trove of talent and wisdom. She's certainly not short of opinions, as you'll soon see. Funny man Jason Runo was born ready. He's the mastermind behind Because You Said So, a comedy improv show he's the executive producer and host of. So, what does he have to say on tonight's topic mashup? Patience, dear viewers. The learned friend Angela Kioi Gathima is an advocate of the High Court and proprietor of Gathima Kioi and Company Advocates. The entrepreneur, wife, and mother has a thing or two to share, so be all ears. And last but not least, he's the journalist extraordinaire, as he likes to call himself. Philip Mwaniki is the reason we're often glued to the Gazette for what's buzzing in the Kenyan entertainment industry. Well, stay tuned to hear his 2 cents.
All right, let's get the conversation started. You know, I was on the internet the other day and I came across a blog written by a young woman. She was recently engaged and she raised the question, is marriage an accomplishment? She got a lot of flack for it because a lot of people were wondering, well, what do you mean? Are you downing your future husband to be? And she said, you know, a lot of times women, are gauged by if they're married or engaged as opposed to maybe career strides that they've made or something in education. So let me throw out to the panel, and Philip, I'll start with you. Do you feel, and this is either way, not just for women, do you feel that she's right in that marriage is not an accomplishment or should not be viewed as such?
I think this one is more of individual than collective.
Okay.
If you grow up and you're one of those people who, to you, in your goals, your hashtag goals, it's marriage. When you finally get married, it's an accomplishment to you.
To you,
but
yes.
As a whole, it's not. It's actually, if anything, you're just moving in with another person. So I never get why that is an accomplishment.
Lifelong roommate.
Yeah, I know. All of us went to boarding school, and after boarding, we were like, thank you, I'm out.
Right.
I have my own room in the house. Then here's another person. So to me, it's not an accomplishment.
Yeah.
It's just, it's I don't know, it's good to be married, especially if you get the right person, but that should not be the only thing you're
the be-all, end-all kind
exactly.
of, yeah.
Yes.
You know, Maggie, do you feel as a woman that sometimes society would kind of put the wedding ring a bit higher than, oh, she got her master's, or, you know, something that you did in your career?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. I mean, and especially one of the careers I chose is related to marriage. It's marriage and family therapy.
Okay.
Sometimes I've actually thought, should I wear a ring so that people feel, and I mean, that's a lie, right? I just think marriage...
So wearing to be more respected.
Yeah, wear a ring to be seen as somebody who's a good girl, who went to school to study something important, and who then, by virtue of the ring, has the authority to give an opinion or to give advice or to suggest an intervention for a client.
Yeah.
But it's a lie.
Yeah.
The truth is, you go to school to get trained how to be a therapist. But believe me, no matter my education, the fact that I'm not married, for some people is a real issue. Yeah, for some people it's a real issue, and it is viewed as an accomplishment, but it isn't.
Speaking of which, and before I get to you, Jason, let's just watch a clip from Chimamanda Ngozi. She was talking about whether we make women aspire to marriage, and this was at TED Talks a couple of years back. Just take a look.
Because I am female, I'm expected to aspire to marriage. I'm expected to make my life choices, always keeping in mind that marriage is the most important. Now, marriage can be a good thing. It can be a source of joy and love and mutual support. But why do we teach girls to aspire to marriage and we don't teach boys the same? I know a woman who decided to sell her house because she didn't want to intimidate a man who might marry her. I know an unmarried woman in Nigeria who, when she goes to conferences, wears a wedding ring because according to her, she wants the other participants in the conference to give her respect. I know young women who are under so much pressure from family, from friends, even from work, to get married, and they're pushed to make terrible choices. A woman at a certain age who is unmarried, our society teaches her to see it as a deep personal failure. And a man at a certain age who is unmarried, we just think he hasn't come around to making his pick.
Jason, what do you make of that?
I'll say this, it's both way. Because think about it, remember when the current central bank governor was having his interview? Yeah, you see, you're great at economics, you're like the best, but you're not married. What's up with that? You know?
Like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
We'll help you.
There has to be a problem.
Maggie?
Yeah, so it's I would say to a certain extent it's both ways. I've had stories of guys who maybe senior positions and they sort of kind of forced to get married just so that people look at them with more respect and they take their opinions more seriously.
Yeah.
So it's not only the ladies who are dealing with that, that's for sure.
That's actually a really good point that you raised. And Angie, you come from the legal profession. From a legal standpoint, of course, people also get married for other reasons, you know, gaining assets or having a say over your spouse's medical history or whatever. So what are the perks? And why would it be considered, you know, something that is important or held in high esteem?
I think the biggest perk, I would say, legally for marriage is, as you said, being able to be part of your partner's life, even in terms of the legal. Like, it smooths over a lot of things. Though, of course, we have so many laws which then come in.
Yes.
Because when you look at it, it makes succession easier. For example, probate, in the event of a death, then you're not having to prove. If you're married, like legally married, then it's a lot easier to prove that, you know, you're a dependent and all those type of things. But I don't know, I think personally, if I was to speak on a personal view, it's not necessary, like it makes things easier, like if you're a couple, but I don't think that it should be the be-all and end-all of your...
Right. It should be more about keeping the marriage together than...
it's not about the legal, it's not about the assets, it's not about the ease of access and all those things, but it's about a relationship. So to me, that's what is the most important.
And you know, Chimamanda actually mentioned something kind of interesting, that we have the women aspire to marriage and the men not so much. It's kind of like when you don't see a man married, like she said, it's like, oh, he hasn't come to his pick yet. So that's the reason. But I mean, I don't know, Philip, if you think that is the case.
Growing up, everybody, maybe the ladies will be told, you need to sit well, a good woman is like this, nobody will ever marry you. Even eating a piece of chicken is, if you eat that, you'll never get it. I never get it, but so it's one of those things where, I don't know, it's more even cultural. I don't know what to call it. Maybe she'll have the words, but girls grow up knowing you have to get married, and that's why now you have the whole biological clock. You have to get married by this, and especially for me, my biggest question whenever I meet my grandmother is there someone? Whenever I land in the village,
where's the visitor?
She's like, so when's the wedding? So you've come along.
I know.
Yeah, but it's usually more of a joke to me. But if it was a girl, they'll be like, unajua unazeeka. Time is not on your side. So I think it's a societal thing, mindset and everything. They probably don't mean it like that, but to them, because they got married at 19, they think at 25
there should be something happening. So these formed expectations from culture.
Exactly.
It's interesting, there was a study by Consumer Insight, and they basically asked women, husband or house? And they found that most women actually wanted to own property before get married. So they found 37% of Kenyan women placed house ownership as their top, with those aged between 26 and 37 leading the way. In contrast, 23% wanted marriage. Which is interesting, because is it meaning that now we're changing a bit, with such numbers?
I think, look, society is dynamic. So it doesn't remain static. So for example, the whole biological clock, that's a very valid argument for, like if you want children, that's a reality you need to contend with. Only that now we're thinking, well, it's the clock for children, not marriage. Right? So I can have a child or three and I can get married or not. So things are becoming more optional. more,
Okay.
it's like it's a choice.
Yeah.
And I feel like the trend in terms of recent last 10, 20 years, when you look at relationships, both men and women, I think, are feeling, I can invest so much in a person and with a person and it fail. But if I invest in property, the only person who's in charge of whether it fails or doesn't fail is me. My good decisions and my bad decisions will determine whether I get a master's, whether I buy a home or a car.
Right.
But I could be faithful to Philip and he could still, you know, treat me badly or leave me for someone else. And I think that sense of anxiety and internal kind of displacement makes people naturally lean towards what feels safest for them.
So do you feel that's why people kind of shying away from marriage? Not because they're not holding it high esteem, but it's kind of like, it's not something I really want at this point in my life.
Just to add on to what Philip said, it's something that's very societal, societal mindset, because women are told you have to get married by this age. You know, there's that pressure.
Yes,
but then again, there's always that asterisk down there. But ujipange.
Yes.
Just in case.
Just in case. You have to jipanga. So I think that's also at the back of people's minds that, you know, I'll marry you, but, you know, hey, I have to sort of plan B, C, D, E, F.
Every day we hear people talking about how bad marriages are. And you'll always hear the negative stories. You'll never hear good stories when it comes to it's how society works. You'll always hear the cautionary tales. You'll always hear about that woman who got married and left her job and now she was left with nothing. You'd hear those stories. And it's natural for women to say, hey, you know, let me plan myself, let me protect myself. You know, let me make sure I have 37%. I'd want to own my own home before I get married.
Exactly.
You know, maybe as a way of protecting themselves. Of, you know.
And you know, Maggie, for you, when interacting with, you know, people who are getting into marriage or already, I mean, what is your observation in terms of their view of marriage? I mean, some people come in because it's a contract or it's convenience or whatever. They have different reasons for getting into a marriage. But I mean, from your observations, what have you seen?
I feel like, first of all, people who are facing, like, they're in love and they're about to get married, they don't listen. So you could give them the best advice or suggestions. I could go to her in love and ready for marriage, and I'm a grown woman with an intelligent mind, and she'll tell me, have you considered this or this about assets? And I'll look at her and think, no, but, you know, Jason would never do that to me. Maybe he didn't plan to, you know. And then I think also from an emotional and kind of psychological perspective, love makes you feel the best of everything. Love makes you feel happy, happiest, you know, sunniest. And so it's very difficult to not gloss over your own issues, right? And so I'm expecting him to cure me or to fulfill me or to complete me. But I call that using a blender to make a cake. I mean, the blender works, but that's not what it was meant to do, right? I mean, cakes are baked with some things and then blenders do other things. So he's not here to fulfill my every whim. And I had a guy tell me just a couple of weeks ago, I don't want to date because I don't want to be someone's hero.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
He's 24.
What?
This came from the mouth of a 24-year-old guy who's about things in his life, and he's feeling the pressure to, you know, be someone's, you know, end all and be all that.
You know, Philip, do the guys feel that pressure that, you know, once we get into a marriage, oh, it's all on me? I guess maybe because society, it's you who makes the approach, it's you who initiates.
When they get into marriage, most of the time now you know you're the head of the house. You provide. And you get to that point where now the girl you're dating probably earns more than you and everything else, because right now more girls are doing that, they're excelling. So it gets to that pressure for, okay, I need to pay all these things, so what do you do? So most of the time, that's why maybe for some guys you find they probably push it until probably now they excel. That's why most of the time when you see, I think guys getting married or anything, he probably now tender imeingia mahali. There's a new something, but when they are kind of broke and back in the when they're still young, that now that's why most of the time you'll hear guys say, I'm doing this so that I can do the following. So it's not I'll start doing it here. Sometimes marriage, you always hear also that behind every successful man is a woman, is a proud woman and everything else. And sometimes that is true.
Yeah, yeah.
But most of the time, there are those guys who think, okay, you're more successful than me, you're more popular than me, so what will I be doing in there? When you get home, will you walk in and then I'm like, I'm Victoria. You sit there, listen to me, and check my notifications. So, yeah, so the pressure is there. It's only that for women, society is a bit louder with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's less grace
Yes,
for the
exactly.
ladies.
Yes.
Okay, all right. On that note, let's take a short break here on Victoria's Lounge. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I hope you're keeping in with the conversation. Hashtag Victoria's Lounge is how you can chime in on social media. Now, last week there was a landmark ruling made that practically said that the name of a father can appear on a child's birth certificate. Now, a lot of people thought, yeah, the chickens are coming home to roost on this one. But it was also really good for children to have access to different rights that they before could not. Philip, what did you make of that ruling?
I think it was a good thing.
Okay.
It's only that it gets to that point where now you go, but where now the conversation now starts,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the law maybe she'll help interpret it in terms of where now people start wondering, so she'll not ask the father if to put it. So what happens when the father is some broke guy somewhere, but there's some other guy, let's not bring sponsors here, some other guy somewhere, where
Bless
now,
us, yes,
exactly,
yes.
bless her. So
Yeah.
she decides it's Jason, it's not Philip. Both of us don't know. So
Yeah.
it gets to that point. But I think every child needs to know their father in terms of, just knowing your heritage later when you're drawing your whole identity and everything
Yes.
else. It helps.
Yes.
So whether he was broke or not, that's none of your business
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're here.
Right.
So I think it's important. It's just some things now that just need to be.
And Angie, that's the worry because people feel, okay, the father's consent is not there, the name disappears. So will we see paternity tests, DNA tests to ensure that this is the father before you put the name on? So how does it work?
Okay, I think when I read the ruling, I felt that the idea behind Lady Justice Ngugi's, she was thinking was more on the side of the child. Like, this child has a right to know their heritage, has a right to bear that name.
Yeah.
And there's a point where she mentions that, there's remedy under law. If you feel your name has been put erroneously, you can insist on a paternity test and then get the birth certificate. And so there's all these remedies under the law that there's a way for you to do it. I don't think it's necessary for you to have, you wouldn't have paternity tests before the name is put because then that is a lot of money, like everybody,
Wow. Yeah.
But if you were to come and challenge and say, no, I do not think this is my child, then there is a remedy
Then you can actually.
under the law. If nothing happens, if there's no request for child support,
Yes.
it's a name on a piece
Yeah.
of paper. If there's no, at probate, at the point of succession, if there's no woman coming up and saying, hey, by the way, he was the father of my child,
Yes.
then it won't. So really it is when your obligations as a parent starts kicking in under the law that you would now say, hey, but that's not my child. Because then before that, it would technically be a name.
Oh, so the
on
name
a
is not like
paper.
automatic child support?
No, it's
Oh,
not.
so what's the process? Because I thought like we'll just be seeing all these suits flying, Yes.
You see,
And it's not mandatory, is it? Like
It's not
you don't
mandatory.
have to put
No.
the name of a father.
No, you
can
don't
say
have to put the name of the father.
Okay, you can leave it blank.
Yeah, you can leave it blank if you wish. You can add it later on if you
Okay.
wish.
I agree with the ruling because the child has their rights supersede our right to convenience, right? But on a serious note, maybe there should be some sort of notification. No, because like
That's a business
Philip-
idea for someone out there.
Yeah, like, can someone please? I mean, I could have his child, and I put down his name, and then he doesn't know, and he has a child with her, and then he becomes some trillionaire and he thinks he has 3 children. Turns out he has 7, because some of them, sometimes I get pregnant and I don't say. We separate, and then I think, oh, I don't want to bother him.
Yeah.
So those are the things I'm kind of seeing will
Come
come up down the line. Some sort of notification, like in the States, for example, if you in New York, if you test HIV positive, they're required to report you to the state, not like tell on you, but for statistical and kind of health.
Yes. Yeah.
But at the same time, you're required to reveal your partners. And then they get an anonymous notification. So you just get a call, Philip, could you please come to the health center, blah, 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 blah. But I think legally we will have to catch up with that side of things. Because it's good to also be fair, yeah? Paternity is not a punishment to men, you know, I've gotcha. It's not that. It's just for the children to have access.
That's the thing. And Jason, what does it mean for the brothers? Because I'm just envisioning a lot of these, well, they said, you know, it's to rein in also the deadbeat dads as well and kind of get them in to be responsible. But for the guys, I mean...
It's how do you stop it from being abused? I think for us, that's like... Because, you know, again, in such situations, sometimes people make emotional decisions. You understand? You could have a chick who would be like, maybe when she gets, that guy is so broke, he will not be anywhere on that birth certificate. Then all of a sudden he's a entrepreneur and he has so much money, like wait a minute. Niongeze hii jina. Because situations change, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I don't know, I mean, for us, I think it's that worry of how is that not abused?
And also what rights do the fathers have? So if I leave him off, but he's feeling, look, we made a baby together, we don't have to be together.
He wants to be in the child's life.
But I actually have the right under the law to say, she left me off the birth certificate and I deserve to be on it.
Our learned friend?
Yes, he does.
He does.
Because it goes both ways. I think a lot of times we look at children as, you know, the woman's responsibility, her obligation, all those things are just placed on her. But we forget that the men, technically you have equal rights. There's no discrimination under the law. So if you feel your name ought to be on the birth certificate and she's refusing, then you'd have a right to say, I want my name to be put on the birth certificate. I want my child to bear my name. So there's that equality, which is what it should look like. There should be equality for you to be able to do both on both sides. Even for men, there are men who go to children's court and request access to their children, where they feel they're being denied access, where they feel like they would want to be part of their child's life and they're not being given that opportunity. They have every right to go ahead and do that.
You know, I was wondering on the flip side, the emotional implications, because a child who's of age, they're aware, now see dad around and wondering, okay, and then become privy to the fact that, oh, he's here because of the law. And originally he did not come for whatever reason. What does that mean emotionally for children coming up if they become aware of that fact? To give it to you, Maggie.
You know, that's a really tricky thing because from an attachment perspective, the child attaches to their primary caregiver, which is often the parent, right? So if I grow up and I only have attached to my mom because that's the only parent that was available, then, you know, this guy is there and he's only there because the law forced him.
Exactly.
That's a huge injury to the attachment between me and my father, right? But it's not just about, are we friends? Is my dad, do we get along? It's how now I begin to perceive things. That's the lens. That becomes the lens through which I see men, the lens through which I see myself. And then you have people growing up and making decisions to try and, you know, it's a subconscious psychological thing, but you're trying to feel worthy because your primary attachment somehow in some way caused you to feel unworthy from the time when it was not your fault, right? If I don't like you now, it's because I've determined for myself that I don't like you. But when you're 2 days old or 2 months old or 2 years old, it has nothing to do with you. So then you cannot really though reconcile that because inside you're still that child.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And you end up picking men who reflect that thing to you. So it's up to the parent who stays to also really kind of do the work of reflecting worth, love, so that it's not attached to a person. I'm not lovable because I have a father. I'm not lovable because I have a mother. I am lovable because I am lovable. And I am loved by these people.
And you raise a really good point of the parent kind of projecting that on the child. Because I read an article where they were saying that this now not legitimizes, but you know, for the kids who in school are stigmatized because you come from a single parent home, or some schools that say, no, where's the father on this? You need to. It's now society giving you a stamp of approval, which I kind of find is wrong.
It is wrong.
Because the child is, you know, legitimate. They're here. You know, even though their circumstances may not be, you know, considered right under society. And I'm afraid that that also could be brought out through something like this? I don't know if anyone feels the same on that.
You know, the law says that fathers can be put on the birth certificate, but it doesn't say they have to move in with the mother,
Yeah.
right? So you could still be a single parent,
Yeah.
but the birth certificate bears the name of a man.
Yeah.
And I think, especially the schools that reject children based on single parenthood, I wish the courts would address that.
I don't know. I think the biggest problem, and this has been happening for many years, is that these are private institutions, and so they abide by the rules that they create
That they set.
for themselves. So they have the
They're
right
under
to,
no
they're
obligation
under no
to-
obligation. It's not a public institution. Public institutions, yes, there's no discrimination. Private institutions, they make up their own rules. They decide what they're going to decide. Like, remember the boy from Rusinga School with the
Yes,
dreadlocks?
yeah.
And, you know, hair, and they went to court, and he was still told, you either cut
Or you find a different school.
Image.
The idea is that, especially because these are Catholic religious schools, the Bible, something to do with, you know, that the right way to have a child is to get married and then have the child. So
Within
if the
with-
child
yeah.
came before the marriage or instead of the marriage, then that makes that child what? Exactly what are we saying? I mean, I don't even know the word.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
makes
They're
that child
here.
like not good enough because they were not conceived under the right circumstances. Yeah?
Yeah.
And this is one of my issues with religious institutions because the child literally had nothing to do with it.
Yes.
Let's also be a society that says legally I'm allowed to, just because you can under the law.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, doesn't the Bible say that just because you can doesn't mean you should?
This is actually not the first time it's come up. Even before independence, there's something called, I think, the Filiation Act that actually used to protect. Actually, it was there so that the putative dads and fathers had to provide for, I think, the baby mom. And then a male-dominated, I think, parliament in the 60s came and decided
overturned.
this thing is really bad.
We have many children.
Yeah, we have many children.
Do you know how much I
I don't care about that one. So this was actually from 1963 or 64. I don't know when.
Yeah.
This is now the first time I think it's being addressed. So
Wow.
I think it's all this. We tend to think like it's new, but
But
it's not.
it's been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I'm wondering the timing, but I guess it's come at a time where we do need
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on that note, let's take a short break here on Victoria's Lounge. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Now, this is a very touchy subject. To freeze or not to freeze. So we're talking about the reproductive male and female. It's something that is sometimes considered taboo, especially for women who have passed the biological clock and they're thinking, hey, I need to do something, especially if they're not married. So I know at least freezing of sperm has been going on in Kenya for several years, but freezing of eggs is something that is fairly new and coming into the Kenyan market. But Philip, let me start with you. What is your take on it in terms of it's an option that's out there?
yes,
Yeah.
I still go with it's an option. I just think from the little I know about it.
Yeah.
Actually, I think knew about it when I think it's Facebook and Google decided that I think the employees can start freezing their eggs for I don't know how long. And the first question for me was why? I think if you can, it's better. But I think it serves its purpose for other people maybe who I don't know if you're. No, it's not if you have cancer. I think going through
You're going through the
something
treatment,
like
yeah, it's toxic to the
Exactly.
yes, the
So I think
reproductive-
that one makes sense for it.
Right.
It's just that at the end of the day, it's.
But at 20-something, would you know that later I get cancer, so I should probably do it now? It's kind of like tough to,
True,
yeah,
but when-
gauge.
yes, there's that. But also when you decide, I don't know, at the end of the day, it's a choice.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's up to the woman.
Yeah, Maggie, I know for the ladies, it's something that some are thinking about, considering, and we were talking about earlier in the show, biological clock, expectations from society, but there's also the other end of how you do it and why you're doing it.
Look, you know, when we talk about freezing eggs, we talk about it like, it's a statement. It's something that you say.
Yes.
But the reality of freezing eggs, first of all, it's a medical intervention. So you can't walk into a grocery store and say, niweke hii. Right? It's a medical intervention that requires medical things to be done to you. It's painful to extract the eggs, for example. You have to take medication to even have eggs to extract.
Exactly.
Because a woman produces only one every month, right?
And they need to get several at a time.
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
need to stimulate like a mass production of maybe 4.
And that's mass production.
And that's mass production.
of 4.
Yeah, and then those medications are not without consequence to the human body.
That's true.
So when we talk about it, it's not as easy as the way it rolls off the tongue, which is why then, if you're 26, no doctor that I know will opt to freeze your eggs, right? Unless there's a medical reason or some other mitigating factor.
You're right.
Because medicine rightfully believes you should go ahead and
Do it the natural way.
do it the
if
way it was
not,
intended.
Yeah.
Just like a C-section is not like just,
It shouldn't
I
be
don't want
optional.
stretch marks. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
medical procedure.
Yeah.
So in terms of if you have chemo and you need to preserve some form of your fertility, if you're reaching, 35, 42,
And up,
and
yeah.
you don't want to lose that chance, but it's like your last resort. That's the other thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, it's not guaranteed to give you children.
That too.
Furthermore, it's not guaranteed
I
to
think
give
it's
you
like a
one
2 to
child.
12% chance you'll get a live birth.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're not guaranteed to get a viable pregnancy, and sometimes you get multiples, and you were planning on one and you get 4, right? So I mean, it's a very it's a miracle for the people who need the miracle.
Yes, yeah.
And it's financially draining. And in this society, it's very stigmatized. Even if I was married and we had child through fertility intervention,
Yeah.
people keep it secret.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. There's still that stigma of you used that.
Yes.
What is wrong with one of you? And a lot of times
Yeah.
the burden is put on the woman.
Of course.
Yeah.
And sometimes it could be the man. But Jason, not asking whether you would. What do you think about it? Or have already?
Jason, no pressure.
Well, I think technology comes to make life better. Yeah, I mean, like I've met ladies who don't want to have kids, and that's what they've said categorically, that they don't want to have kids.
Yeah.
But things change.
Yes.
Things could change later.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
why not? I mean, you shouldn't be
Locked out or
locked
forced
out
in.
or punished because
Right.
of a decision that you made earlier. And I think it's about the society discussing anything and everything around sex, so that we have to remove those stigmas, because it's the same thing like if you can get a liver or a heart transplant, what's the difference? It's like, why is that? Okay, yours was the heart, it's fine. But you got eggs? What? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that whole myth, and we should be able to talk about these issues.
I'm just thinking from like a legal standpoint, if you're to conceive maybe from a sperm donor, or how do those things work? Even when it comes to finding, I remember there was a lady who got married to her sperm donor. She actually found the guy and got married to him. And so, now of course it's a complete family, a complete unit. Those are very rare occasions, I know, but should you, now that we're under the whole new dispensation of putting fathers' names on birth certificates, should you find yourself in the position of doing that from a donor? How does that work? Can it work? Is it possible?
I'd say in this situation, we're behind, like the law is behind science.
It's catching up now.
It's catching up now. It's like in Kenya, we're way behind where the scientific capability is. So I don't even think that it's really been looked at. I think a lot of it is in terms of waivers. Like if you're a sperm donor, you actually waive your rights.
Oh, to anonymity.
Anonymity, and you waive your rights as a parent. You'll never go back.
Okay.
That kind of a thing. And then, so when I look at, let's say, America or Europe and the laws that they have there, they had to change the laws to catch up with where science is. I think in Kenya, because past the stigma, as we've talked about, people aren't talking about it, people who are doing it, it's like, it's looked like it's a solution for women or married women who are unable to conceive naturally. It's like it's not
easy way
quite.
out.
It's like an easy way. It's a solution for other people, but we don't even think about it as a solution for, let's say, in the middle of my career, I don't want to have a baby right now, but I want a baby when I'm 45. When I have made it and I have
so like
the
a
money.
lifestyle decision that you
It's a
make.
lifestyle decision. You see? So there's so much. So many ways that it can be looked at, and the law just hasn't caught up with it. I think a lot of it would be just by waivers and signing documents and giving up your rights, so that even if you use the sperm donor, then you would not be compelled to put his name.
But also on that policy, especially for the extraction of eggs and everything else, somebody can actually sell your eggs.
Yes.
That's very true.
But
You're waiting
you
until
can
you
actually
get to
sell your
45.
eggs to someone.
There are those ethics also. It's not just policy. So I don't think we are there yet.
Yeah.
I mean, an ethics take, so there's me selling my eggs to whoever wants them, right? And also how we price that. And it's a medical thing, right? So there has to be doctors involved.
Yeah.
But then there's you, my doctor, selling my eggs.
Yes, that's
or
another-
accidentally
Making them-
inserting them into some other
Yeah.
person's
Yeah.
body.
Mixing them up.
Yeah, then there is you who
mixing them up.
donated and then you've changed your mind. So
Yeah.
are you
Yes.
allowed to
take advantage.
Yeah.
say, look, and am I allowed to say, you gave me hope that I would be having this baby, so you and your changed mind can just go.
I think this would only work if like you work for Google or Facebook, because at least they're putting money for that. So
That's the thing. The
It's
price
easier.
makes it kind of.
It is prohibitive.
Prohibitive.
And you know the other thing
Yeah.
we don't think about is that you pay a cost for the storage of the eggs. So
Yes.
there is the
So
cost for
beyond
the
just the
extraction.
process, yes.
Yeah, so beyond the medication to stimulate and extract and procedures, then for every month or for every year, it's like you're
Wow.
paying rent.
Yeah.
So you're paying your rent, maybe
To
my
store
rent,
them.
and then also rent.
Our rent, you're telling your children, I paid for your rent before you were born, before you were conceived. I've been paying your rent for 10 years.
now you're still living in my house.
And
That's
it's
how you treat me. You refuse to bring me tea.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Okay, I think it's time we bring that heated topic and put it on ice. Thanks for watching Victoria's Lounge. Thank you to my panel who were just a ball of energy.